In order to close this meeting, I would like to start by thanking very sincerely the contribution of all the participants and your time and your efforts and resources to be here. I would like to say that as new director of CLAF, I have quickly come to realize how this institution is dear to the physics community of the entire continent, which is not obvious. The enthusiasm with which our proposals have been received in the various countries and institutions with which I have talked this year, and I have tried to talk to many countries, and I've visited 3 of them, is emblematic of this. And I hope that we will be able to meet these expectations. I would like to say, and I think that CLAF is a very mature institution. It was created in '62 by joint action of the government of Brazil and UNESCO, as you heard. Its creation shortly followed the creation of the first regional office of UNESCO in Montevideo, as CLAF was aimed to work as an arm of UNESCO for the development of physics in Latin America. Over the course of its history, CLAF had its highs and lows, but the institution remains solid and resolute in its mission of contributing to the advancement of the physical sciences in the region. It is important to realize, though, that over the past 60 years since the foundation of CLAF, physics research has greatly advanced in Latin America. And the context of the field today is very different from 40, but even 20 years ago. Physics training, as it was when CLAF was created, is no longer limited to a few centers and has expanded to many countries and regions that a few decades ago had only a very peripheral role. And I believe that the continuation of the mission of CLAF now rests on recognizing and exploring these new frontiers. It's somehow paradoxical that despite all the progress at local and national levels in the region, physics research in Latin America remains relatively little interconnected. And we have seen that when we heard the talks between the Brazilian and the Chilean communities, and that there was a lot of things that we didn't know about each other, even being the 2 countries that are becoming associate members of CERN. And in some sense, if you look at the history, for example, that Ivan showed today, or that Guto always tells us, in some sense, it seems to be less interconnected than when CLAF was created. I guess that the reason for this is perhaps that the development of local capacities at the various countries is naturally followed by some autonomy, whereas in the past, the strong interconnection derived from dependency. From the recognition of this insufficient level of regional collaboration, which I think is the big deal today for us in Latin America, it is clear to me that the next step is the work towards the development of the physical sciences involves actively working to promote the integration of physics research in the region. And this should be done by exploring new avenues and instruments that have not yet been effectively put to the service of this goal. Oddly enough, this does not mean creating new instruments, but rather using what is already available, as CLAF was created precisely for this. Of all fields, high-energy physics is undoubtedly the one in which the Latin American community is the most interconnected, and we were talking about this with Salvatore yesterday. This being the reason why it is the topic of this meeting, which is the first meeting of this kind that we are organizing with CLAF. In this sense, the presence of Salvatore here is particularly relevant for me, as much of what is already in place for the region in terms of cooperation in this field is thanks to CERN's vision and efforts. And additional steps will certainly need CERN's continued and active support. The same is true for regional community actions like La RICAP, as was just shown by Rogério. The focus of this meeting in the Brazilian and Chilean communities is not by accident either, as they would be natural pillars of this process given their status now. The creation, and that's what I would like to propose with this meeting, of a Latin American cooperation group on high-energy physics wishes to explore the singular nature of CLAF to more effectively promote regional integration in the field. And here is where I think CLAF can contribute very strongly to the efforts that the community is doing. By bringing together, from one side, the representatives and the people that are doing this job of mapping and understanding where are the interests and the capabilities of the community throughout the whole region, together with the other side that's missing in this forum of discussion, which are the representatives from the governments and the relevant institutions of the CLAF member states, so that these groups together can jointly define an agenda and not only stay in two poles where there is demand and then there is someone that maybe will listen to the demand and then will change because politics evolves. So jointly define an agenda and explore opportunities for joint coordinated actions at a regional level. I think this group should be permanent because things change over the years. But maybe one year there are opportunities for certain countries or institutions and in the other year for others. And if we are in constant contact, then we are able to pick the opportunities as they come. No? So as a follow-up to this meeting today, I would like to invite you to work with CLAF in establishing such a group, which should work as a stable node of dialogue convened by CLAF, not directed, but convened by CLAF, between the scientific community and the regional governments with the goal of advancing a true regional policy for the development of the field to the benefit of all countries and groups of the continent. And this can involve bringing the funding agencies and the large regional funding bodies like BID that you mentioned to try to see if these groups can find some breakthrough. As much as such idea may sound ambitious, and I realize it is, I believe it is precisely the ambition for which CLAF was created. And it's an ambition that we should not forget. And I believe that given the non-trivial boundary conditions of our region, that is one of the most promising, if not the only way, to start cementing existing relations at an institutional level. And from there, taking the steps towards the next phase in the process of promoting the development of physics in Latin America, which I believe is to lay the foundations for the construction of a true Latin American physics, pretty much as our European colleagues have managed to do in the past 50 years. So, thank you. And now we have the cocktail.
Tem pergunta, não?
Oh, yes, you can ask questions. Yes.
Yes. Do you have someone have some comments to the beautiful speech of the Ulysses? No? Okay,
So,
let's go.
Is there anyone who disagrees with that? That would be the important thing to know.
Okay, let's go to a caipirinha.
Thank you.